Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's story centers on a young woman who had just graduated high school. One day, she left her job at a local mall and then seemed to vanish without a trace. Her family, friends, and the police quickly began searching for her, but their efforts came up empty. However, as the investigation deepened, a string of disturbing clues began to surface, leading to a shocking revelation that rocked not only her town but the entire country. Luren Astley was born on April 1, 1993, in the quiet town of Luren, Massachusetts. She was an only child, growing up in a close-knit family. When Luren was 6, her parents decided to divorce, but her father stayed in the same town to remain a big part of her life. Despite their split, her parents worked together to raise her in a loving environment. Luren and her dad shared a special bond. One notable memory was when the two of them traveled to New Orleans to help with relief efforts after Hurricane Katrina. Though Luren was still a child, she worked alongside her father to help clean up the devastation left behind. Luren was always active, especially in sports, from a young age. She started out playing soccer but soon discovered her true passion for tennis, where she excelled and achieved impressive results. Despite her athletic abilities, Luren's heart was truly in singing. She joined her school's music group, frequently performing at local events and quickly becoming known for her talent. During high school, Luren also began working part-time at a clothing store in a nearby mall. She had big dreams for her future, planning to attend college in North Carolina after graduating. She took this job to save money before heading off on her next adventure. In the summer of 2011, 18-year-old Luren graduated high school, marking the start of a new chapter in her life. Knowing that she'd be moving far away for college, she spent most of her free time with her family and friends, trying to make the most of her remaining months at home. On the morning of July 3rd, Luren went to work at the mall as usual. She had made plans to meet up with her friends after her shift, planning to give them a call around 6:30 p.m. Luren finished work that day, said goodbye to her coworkers, and left the mall like she did every other day. However, this time was different. Her friends waited for her call, but Luren never reached out. They tried texting and calling her, but there was no response. At first, they thought maybe she was just tied up with something, but as more time passed, their concern grew. Luren's father, who had been expecting her to stop by after work, also began to worry when she didn't show up. His calls, like her friends, went unanswered. Worried something might be wrong, Luren's father contacted her friends. When he learned that they hadn't seen or heard from her all evening, he wasted no time and went straight to the police. In their small town, there weren't many places Luren could have gone, and the fact that she hadn't met up with her friends or returned her dad's calls was alarming. Everyone started to fear the worst. The local police responded quickly, launching a search for Luren. At the same time, one of her friends reported seeing her car parked near a beach by a nearby lake. Police rushed to the scene and found her red Jeep. Luren wasn't inside, but her belongings, including her purse, phone, and laptop, were still in the car. The windows were rolled down, which raised immediate concern. Luren's friends and family knew she would never leave her car unattended like that, especially with her valuables inside. Her father was beside himself with worry. He ran to the beach, frantically searching the area and even wading into the water, hoping to find any sign of his daughter. Police inspected the car, but there were no obvious signs of a struggle, no blood or any other clues that could suggest what had happened to her. They began combing the surrounding area, but still, there was no trace of Luren. The only thing they found was her car keys, which were located in a storm drain nearby. It seemed as though someone had intentionally thrown them there, adding another layer of mystery to her disappearance. As word spread, Luren's friends gathered near the beach, desperate for answers. Investigators started questioning everyone, trying to piece together what had happened. During their interviews, her friends mentioned Luren had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Nathaniel, just a few months prior. While the breakup had been hard on him, none of Luren's friends believed Nathaniel would ever harm her. They were all adamant that he had loved her deeply and wouldn't do anything to hurt her. Despite their assurances, the police decided to follow up and speak with Nathaniel. When detectives arrived at his home later that night, Nathaniel told them he had been home all evening. His mother backed up his alibi, saying they had spent the night watching movies together. With that information, police ruled Nathaniel out as a suspect and shifted their focus back to searching the area around the lake for any sign of Luren. Luren's family, along with dozens of local residents, quickly joined the search effort at the beach. Her friends stayed by her car all night, hoping desperately that Luren would reappear. As the hours passed, they remained hopeful, clinging to the idea that she might just show up. Meanwhile, the police took a closer look at Luren's phone, and what they found raised eyebrows. At 7:05 p.m., Luren had sent a one-word message to her ex-boyfriend Nathaniel. Here, 14 minutes before that, she had called him, and they spoke for a few minutes. This new information seemed suspicious, so detectives decided to pay Nathaniel another visit. When questioned again, Nathaniel admitted that Luren had indeed come by his house around 7 p.m., but he claimed she never got out of her car. According to him, they talked for about 5 minutes, mostly about their relationship, and then she drove away. He insisted that he hadn't mentioned it earlier because he thought it wasn't important at the time. Nathaniel remained calm during the conversation, and nothing about his behavior seemed off, so the police didn't press him further and continued exploring other leads. As the search for Luren stretched into the night, a break in the case came in the early morning hours. A woman who was out for a bike ride along the river had spotted something unusual in a nearby marsh. Curious, she stopped to take a closer look, only to realize with horror that it was a human body. She immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they recovered the body from the water, and it was soon confirmed to be Luren Astley. From the moment they saw her, it was clear this was no accident. Luren had been murdered. A bungee cord was tightly wrapped around her neck, and there was a noticeable cut on her throat. The body was sent for a medical examination, where it was confirmed that Luren had died from both the strangulation and the wound to her neck. They also found several defensive wounds on her body, evidence that Luren had fought fiercely against her attacker. Back at the scene, police searched the area around the marsh. During their search, they discovered a blood-stained towel not far from where Luren's body was found. This towel was collected and sent for DNA testing, adding a new piece to the puzzle. Now that they were investigating a murder, detectives turned their attention back to finding Luren's killer. At this point, Nathaniel was the only viable suspect. The police began digging deeper into Luren and Nathaniel's past relationship. After speaking with her friends and family, they learned more about the couple's history and the breakup. Luren and Nathaniel had started dating 3 years prior, and for most of that time, everything seemed to be going well. Nathaniel came from a respected family and was a star on the school football team. He was popular, well-liked, and seemed like the perfect boyfriend. But things took a turn about 2 years into their relationship. Nathaniel's behavior began to change. He grew more controlling and jealous, often trying to dictate who Luren could spend time with. He even began drinking more heavily, which only added to the strain on their relationship. Luren's friends noticed the shift and saw how much it was affecting her. They encouraged her multiple times to break up with him, but the couple kept falling back into old patterns, breaking up and getting back together again. However, 3 months before Luren's tragic death, she made up her mind to end things for good. According to her friends, Nathaniel didn't take the breakup well at all. He struggled to accept it, often showing up unannounced to talk to Luren or calling her frequently, trying to convince her to reconsider. But Luren had made her decision and was determined not to go back to him. Despite his persistence, she remained firm in her resolve. After the breakup, Nathaniel's emotional state deteriorated rapidly. He fell into a deep depression and seemed to lose all interest in the things he once loved. Nathaniel's once active social life came to a halt. He stopped leaving his house, barely spoke to his friends, and even lost his passion for football. Football had always been a central part of his identity, and he had even earned a college scholarship because of it. But in the wake of the breakup, he no longer cared about the sport or his future plans. Nathaniel began spending most of his days at home, drinking and smoking, further isolating himself from the world around him. Seeing her son spiral, Nathaniel's mother became increasingly worried. She eventually decided to take him to a therapist, hoping professional help might make a difference. Nathaniel attended a few therapy sessions, but it wasn't clear if they were having any real impact. The therapist suggested Nathaniel might have been dealing with depression. Despite withdrawing from his social circle, he kept trying to fix things with Luren. One time, Luren and her friends threw a graduation party, which was attended by many of their classmates and parents. Nathaniel arrived drunk and saw Luren chatting with other guys. Frustrated, he approached her to talk about their relationship, but Luren made it clear she wasn't interested. Nathaniel's anger grew. In his frustration, he punched one of the tent poles set up in the yard, nearly causing the entire structure to collapse on the people inside. The guests had to hold it up to prevent a disaster. He was quickly asked to leave the party. Later, Luren, in tears, told her mother that Nathaniel wouldn't leave her alone. In another alarming event, Nathaniel approached a guy Luren was talking to and threatened to kill him. These troubling incidents made investigators seriously consider Nathaniel's involvement in Luren's murder. After all, he was the last person to talk to and see her alive. However, there was still one major hurdle for the police: Nathaniel's alibi, provided by his mother. As the investigation continued, the police uncovered new evidence. Surveillance footage from the mall where Luren worked showed that Nathaniel had been there about an hour before her shift ended. Although he didn't interact with Luren, he visited a store on the same floor. With this new information, police decided to talk to Nathaniel again. But when they arrived at his house, he wasn't there. His parents told officers that Nathaniel had left several hours earlier, and they didn't know where he had gone. When questioned again, Nathaniel's mother admitted she had briefly left the house to run errands on the night Luren visited after work. This happened to be right around the time Nathaniel said he was with her. This revelation cast doubt on Nathaniel's alibi, making him the prime suspect in the case. With the evidence piling up, police obtained a warrant to search Nathaniel's home. The search revealed several critical discoveries. In the garage, investigators found bungee cords identical to the one used in Luren's murder. Using luminol, forensic experts discovered a large blood stain on the garage floor that had been cleaned but was still visible under special lighting. Blood traces were also found on a door handle, the kitchen floor, and 2 sinks. In Nathaniel's room, detectives found a sports bag containing blood-stained sneakers and dirt. They also found a small door leading to the attic, where more blood-stained shoes and wet, dirty clothes were hidden. These items were sent to the lab, and the results confirmed that the blood belonged to Luren. With overwhelming evidence, the police launched a search for Nathaniel. Just hours later, they found him at his aunt's house. Nathaniel didn't resist arrest and remained calm. He was brought in for interrogation, but his parents quickly hired a lawyer, preventing the detectives from obtaining a confession. Despite this, Nathaniel was charged with murder, and the case proceeded to court. As preparations for the trial unfolded, even more disturbing details came to light. Nathaniel's cousin, with whom he had been staying, revealed that on the night of Luren's murder, Nathaniel had called her, asking if they could hang out to help clear his mind. Although she was busy, they met the next day, just as news of Luren's body being found spread throughout the town. When his cousin asked if he was involved in the murder, Nathaniel responded chillingly, saying, "They'll never find the murder weapon if that's what you mean." He even admitted to driving Luren's car to the beach. Another heartbreaking discovery was that Luren had agreed to meet Nathaniel that night only because his mother had visited her workplace, asking her to talk to him. His mother, worried about her son's emotional state, hoped Luren could help him cope with their breakup. She never imagined the devastating outcome that would follow. While Nathaniel remained in jail without bail, his lawyer announced plans to seek a not guilty verdict, despite not denying that his client had committed the crime. Nathaniel's defense argued that he was in a state of mental breakdown during the murder and should not be held fully accountable for his actions. They claimed that if the court accepted this argument, Nathaniel could undergo several years of mandatory treatment and potentially be released afterward. The trial began on February 13, 2013, a year and a half after the murder. The prosecution built a strong case, asserting that Nathaniel not only understood the gravity of his actions but had also planned the murder in advance. They argued that Nathaniel arranged to meet Luren after her shift, knowing his parents would be away. Investigators uncovered that he instructed Luren to park her car on a nearby street instead of at his house. According to the prosecution, once Luren arrived at Nathaniel's home, he led her to the garage, where he stabbed and strangled her. Afterward, he drove her Jeep to the beach, discarded the keys in a storm drain, and walked back home. Nathaniel then loaded Luren's body into his car and drove it to a swamp, where he dumped it into the water. After disposing of the body, he returned home to clean up the bloodstains. A witness later testified that they saw Nathaniel returning home from the swamp that evening, shirtless, with loud music playing from his car. Nathaniel's lawyer did not dispute that he had killed Luren. However, the defense argued that the murder was the result of a temporary psychotic episode, and that Nathaniel was unable to control his actions. Several experts testified, pointing to Nathaniel's family history of schizophrenia, which they believed might have contributed to his mental state. They also highlighted his involvement in football, where he frequently suffered head injuries, and argued that his depression impaired his judgment. Nathaniel told psychologists that during the murder, it felt like he was outside his own body, unable to control what was happening. Despite these claims, the prosecution maintained that the evidence pointed to premeditation. They argued that Nathaniel had carefully lured Luren to his home, murdered her, disposed of her body, and meticulously cleaned up afterward. The series of actions, they said, indicated a well-thought-out crime rather than a momentary lapse of control. In the end, the jury found Nathaniel guilty of murder, and the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. After the verdict, in a surprising moment, Luren's father approached Nathaniel's parents and hugged them. He later explained that they, too, had lost a child that day. Following the trial, Luren's father set up a foundation in her memory, dedicated to preventing similar tragedies. The foundation focuses on raising awareness among teenagers about the dangers of toxic relationships and the importance of condemning violence in any form. In 2021, a Supreme Court ruling stated that individuals under 20 years old could not be sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Since Nathaniel was exactly 20 when he was sentenced, he may be eligible to apply for parole in the future, though no developments have occurred in that direction yet. Luren's parents were devastated by this decision. Her mother firmly expressed that since Nathaniel took their daughter's life, he should not have the chance to live his own and should spend the rest of his life in prison. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more shocking and compelling stories ahead.